I'm Becky.
And I'm Mickey.
And we're back again to talk about the premieres of Arrow and The Flash on the CW.
Flash was yesterday, and today was the Arrow. If you didn't catch it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you guys, it was so good.
If you didn't watch it, yes, both of them were spectacular. Both, storyline at least for the Flash, the first episode was worth watching. Watch it twice.
Yeah. Actually, the Flash premiered last night, and we're talking about this Wednesday night after the Arrow premiere. I was reading an article today that the Flash premiere was the highest rated premiere on the CW in 5 years since the premiere of the Vampire Diaries.
Yeah,
so
that'll probably ensure
claps to everyone over at Flash.
Yep, and that'll ensure its legacy at least for the next season.
Yep. Yeah, it was really good. Yeah. So the Flash. So as some of you remember, there was a crossover episode, a backdoor pilot last year. And so we've all been waiting to see how they.
As you have all, if you've been watching.
Yeah, to see what they did with the Flash world, and I really liked it. I really like what they've done with the character, Grant Gustin. I saw him on Glee before. It was interesting to see him playing this kind of nice, nerdy kind of character as opposed to the angry, mean, gay kid who insults everyone. Which was what he played on Glee.
Yeah. He was a good fit for the Flash. I mean, he's not a grim character. I mean, if you've read the comics or have seen the animated series, he's very much of a friendly, joking character, even as a superhero. So I think they did a good job making him, a genius, which he is, and making him directly the Flash. The way they did it, I mean, didn't deviate too much from the comics either. But so far so good.
Yeah, and it's a nice breath of fresh air to see someone who's a little lighter. After seeing, so many darker heroes, like from the Batman movies and the Arrow show.
The first or so Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
And the first season of Arrow, maybe, I think it is.
Yeah. Oh, he was
the same type of
dark last year, too.
Yeah.
Anyway, just not someone with so much weight on him. Though, I mean, he does have some, because of his backstory and his parents. But it's nice to see a bit of a lighter character. And I really like the things they did with it, with his character, like things that they made him like really competent, at his job and really, smart, and the fact that he's well liked by everyone.
By everybody, yeah.
When he breaks up from his coma and goes back to the office, everyone's really, welcoming and stuff. And sometimes with these shows, to make someone more of an underdog, they have like everyone in his office, just can't stand him or whatever.
Against them or suspicious of him coming back.
Yeah, and so I was really happy about that. And I was really glad what they did with, what's his name, Detective West's character.
Yes.
Did they say his first name?
I'm not sure, but I'm glad, I think we agreed that we're glad they let him in on it early.
Yeah.
Not waiting a couple episodes or halfway through the season and say, oh, look, you're the Flash, and I didn't notice, even though you're hanging out with your sister all the time.
Yeah, well, not sister, like
or,
foster sister,
foster
I guess.
sister, yes.
Yeah, and I like that. I was really afraid when I first, learned about the show that they were going to make this Detective West a Detective Lance knockoff. But I'm really glad they made him someone who's sympathetic with Barry and on his side. I'm glad that he's in on it from the get-go, to make things different. And I'm really glad they made him, kind of, stern but very sympathetic. And which is a change which is nice because I did not like Detective Lance in the first season very much. He was just a jerk. I'm glad that
overbearing, a jerk. It was too much
too much
control
for no reason, really. Yeah. So I'm glad they went that route. Yeah, and I like Iris. They did a good job. She had really nice makeup in that.
Something you've caught, yes.
Yeah, which
they did good fighting.
Understand.
Good fighting skills.
I think I just noticed that she had nice red lipstick on at some point.
How they did the Flash, speed running, which was quite well, I think. Special effects wise, it's much more important than any makeup.
Yeah. I really disagree. No, I'm kidding. No, the effects were cool.
Yeah.
The effects were really nice. I really liked all the different, ways they showed him, discovering his powers, just bursting just kind of bursting off, everywhere. Really good special effects.
And a good smooth introduction for the enemies for the Flash. From the weather manipulator.
Yeah.
So we'll see him more probably.
He was not incredibly well drawn, which I guess is kind of for something like this.
something that was
you
out of the
just
blue.
kind of, you know, for a small-time villain that he's just, you know, there's not much you can do, because that's just one of the drawbacks of, like, a pilot episode villain.
I mean, I'm glad they brought him in instead of one of Barry Allen's old enemies, like the Turtle, which would have never worked for the TV.
The Turtle?
Yes.
Oh, dear. I've heard from several sources that the Flash gets the really goofy villains, so I'm
Well, him and Daredevil share the goofy villains. They'll probably change that one.
Yeah.
They won't bode too well.
Yeah. I'm excited, to see where this goes. I want to see what's up with Harrison Wells. Because I've got a few theories going on right now. I'm not very familiar with the comics. I'm interested to see whether I think he's going to turn out to be a villain. I think maybe he was, like, a Flash, because...
He pulls up the holographic newspaper at the end of the show, and it says 2024, Flash disappears.
So
and he's walking at the end. So he could have been, if you read the comics, there's 3-4 versions of Flash. One before Barry Allen, Wally, who was Barry Allen's son, and then Kid Flash. So it could easily be the previous Flash, and he could have maybe killed Barry Allen's mother unintentionally. We don't know that, but it's a theory.
Yeah. He seems I don't know about unintentional. He seems kind of a little too shady for, you know,
I guess in the comics, he doesn't kill his mother. They become friends. It might change that up a bit.
Yeah, I don't know, like a previous Flash, you know, because the Flash can travel back in time.
Well,
like his speed skills give him all kinds of wonky physics powers.
He can. Well, he has the Speed Force is what he gains his power from. So time travel, going through walls, slowing down time, everything. Anything to do with time and space, he can do.
Yeah. So that should be really interesting to see. I was kind of had this idea when I was watching the previews that there'd be a bit of a fight between Detective West and Harrison Wells for, like, who would be, like, the father figure mentor in his life, and who would, you know, get that position. And so I think that'd be cool to see, because I really do like Detective West's character so far.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about this. About this show. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, you and me both.
I kind of wished it was on Wednesday nights instead of Tuesdays.
So we got a double back-to-back.
I feel like
a double feature of comic characters.
Shows would be a whole superhero show night. I think would be a lot of fun.
You could. I mean, if they reboot the Green Lantern as a TV show, you have Green Lantern, Arrow, the Flash, and then you get a reboot of whatever else, and have Justice League Wednesday nights. They could do it. If
they're going to bring in, like, any other superheroes into these shows...
Wonder Woman could be the other one.
Or as, like, a guest or whatever else, as, like, a background character, the Green Lantern is a good candidate, because after the way the Ryan Reynolds movie bombed, I don't think anyone's going to want to touch that too much.
Yeah, they're going to reboot that movie for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And I think they'd be probably a good idea to do the TV series, because most DC characters, especially for that, do much better as a long TV series. Daredevil is a great example.
Like, Marvel has these superheroes movies down to a science. DC has been having some serious trouble, and I feel like, you know,
they're rushing their movies.
Yeah, I feel like for something like DC that has such a storied history and, like, such big, you know, such these huge, like, plot lines and stuff, it's that maybe better suited to a TV series.
They have plot lines kind of character to character that can be split into episodes. Marvel's more of a long timeline for their characters. So when DC has this TV series, they can do things, you know, kind of put in enemies. I mean, Daredevil, which I'd like to see as a TV series, which might go well because he could, you know, hang out with the Flash or the Arrow, and they could bring in small characters.
But I really enjoyed the pilot. And I really like what they've done with Grant's character. My favorite line from the night was that line where he peeks his head back and walking out of Starlight. I was like, "Can I keep the sweatshirt?" Yeah, I keep the sweatshirt. That was just really funny. Like, it made me laugh. Just because, you know, it's just so, like, you know, awkward, nerdy sort of thing.
It's like something that somebody would do as a scientist, and they do, you know, like, "Hey, can I keep this? I've admired you for the last 10 years.
I love that he's like a science fan.
I like it. I think I like it. Being a science person, I like it even more.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And the Arrow premiere, it was really good too.
Yes.
Okay.
They had a lot going on.
Okay, how dare you, Arrow team, for killing off Sarah?
So
she
quickly.
was such a cool character.
Like when she was brought in.
She was so competent, and she was so good, and her League of Assassins thing was so. It was a great way to like tie in that whole
that whole
part of the
section
universe.
of the universe, yeah.
Yeah, and now they're gonna do it.
Well, they brought her in, and it was like, oh look, she's back, yes. And then she's shot by a couple arrows. Like, who shot her? Could have been what, Ra's al Ghul or one of the other random characters.
What's his face? Malcolm Merlin was the Black Archer, and
yep, and he could have came back.
Yeah,
easily. They were talking about that.
Take her off.
Take her out. Yep.
Yeah, take her off.
I mean, she is dead.
Yeah.
She's dead. She's got a gravestone and everything.
We didn't. At first we were thinking, oh, maybe she's just unconscious, but then we saw like blood in her hair.
From the back of her head, yeah.
Yeah, and it was obvious. Yeah, she's dead. But
she's done, and that's been done.
I think my theory is they're gonna have Laurel take on the mask, the canary mask
Canary,
now,
yes, that's who it
and
is.
like get trained or something. And her big thing will be trying to find her sister's killer, and that's how someone somewhere will train her and help find the killer.
Oliver would train her. Well,
yeah, well, no way. I think that he would not want her to.
So you think she'll be trained by a third person?
Yeah, or find some way. Because, well, look at the way Oliver, like, treated, Diggle that night, and he's had years and years of being in a soldier.
As you said, patronized him.
Okay, yeah, okay, that thing where she was like, you're off, where Oliver was like, Diggle, you're off the field because you're a father. It was super patronizing.
Yeah, like, because, I mean, as he mentioned himself, he's like, I've been a father for the last 5 months in Iraq.
Yeah.
I'm a war veteran.
And it's not
I know
just that.
feeling.
It's like, there are thousands of soldiers and thousands of cops who go out and put their lives on the line every day, and they've got kids. So, like, it's really not that different.
It's not stopping them.
Just because he's working, like, undercover or whatever. They put their lives out on the line every day and just say, well, you have a kid, so you can't
You're off. I mean,
do that anymore. That's super patronizing. And
that would exclude
everybody. Well,
everybody.
it's my crusade, so it's my decision. And it's not Oliver's crusade anymore.
He's been there with him the whole time.
Yeah, he's been there with him. Felicity and Roy, they are in this crusade to keep Starling City safe because they all have a stake in the city.
Yep.
So
I think
it's
dying.
really, I don't know what to call it, like, just really self-absorbed or something. Just really self-absorbed. Just say this only matters to me.
It's my fight, not yours. You've been with me the last 2 years, but you can't fight this one.
Yeah, it's not really fair. Like, he doesn't really get to call that shot because it's not just his fight.
I mean, it might be because he has the red arrow. He might be saying, hey, I have a partner already who's just as competent as you are, if not less.
A kid who's had like a year of bite training does not outrank a war of heft.
But could that be his thinking? Is that I have a second arrow, so you can be on the side
that would be like, okay, if your thinking is, this kid who I've been training for about a year outranks this war vet who's been with me from the beginning, who's been in Iraq. He really should not be the leader of the team.
One's got a family, one doesn't. Is one less of a liability? No.
No. So I did not like, that was one of my problems with the show.
At least that episode.
Yeah, with that episode. It's really...
They introduced some more... there was a lot going on.
Yeah.
I mean, Vertigo came back with a bit of an enhancement with... As soon as
I thought that... Okay, they stole that. They straight up stole that from Scarecrow. That's Scarecrow's thing. The drug that makes you, like, see your worst fear. That's the Scarecrow thing.
Could the Scarecrow... Because they're in the same universe.
Yeah.
They could have... That drug is going through the city. And say the guy who becomes Scarecrow says, hey, look, here's a drug that somebody's enhanced. I'm going to use it, make it even more potent than the guy before me. Because the Vertigo guy said, there's always be somebody being Vertigo.
Yeah.
Scarecrow takes it, there's his character.
I was thinking that for at one point the guy was going to call himself Scarecrow. They were making a big deal about in the interviews and stuff that there was going to be a new Count. But he died in this episode.
Yeah.
He got, a couple arrows to the chest.
But there's somebody else.
Yeah.
And then we have in the background.
So maybe another person. Maybe this wasn't the actual new count they were talking about. Maybe there'll be a different.
The new count.
A third count.
So we have the third count. Merlin is still around supposedly, and Ra's al Ghul is showing his face event. Coming up here. So we have a lot to look forward to in the Arrow.
And I'm more surprised. Like, I understand they need Thea out of the way, and Thea's like apparently been texting all over. I'm kind of surprised if it's been like 9 months, and he hasn't seen her, and he's just getting texts, and she won't send photos. Like, why would he not wonder if she's okay? Why would he not maybe wonder if she's been hurt, and someone's just texting from her phone?
He's got bigger things to deal with.
Well, still, that's his sister. If 9 months went by, I'd want to see her face to face, and.
But if she doesn't want to be seen face to face, he can't control that.
Still, you think he'd want to he'd still push that for that.
With all the technology they have, they could have just traced her phone and found her.
Yeah. But still, you can. Someone can take possession of someone's phone and act like they're them. As paranoid as Oliver is, and this is his sister, and as controlling as he is of the people he cares about, refusing to let Diggle on. You would think.
That's the one person he kind of lets float, outside the circle of control.
Which has always, I think, been the problem. She's always outside the circle.
Floated around.
Refusing to be allowed in, and that's what pushed her out of the city.
That's what gets her out of the city and gets her killed.
Yeah. And under Malcolm's control.
Yep.
I remember there was this really cool, little 2-second clip in one of the Arrow premieres where, Theo was cracking open a vase or whatever, or something, or a block or whatever. With I don't know, something.
A staff or.
Yeah, a staff, and I was like, ooh.
We're gonna have some fun.
I am so excited for Thea's plotline. It's what I'm looking forward to
most.
And
that didn't happen.
Yeah. Well, it's coming. Eventually. Yeah. They've got a lot to establish in the premiere episode.
Which I think is the two series, the Arrow and Flash, have done that.
Yeah.
They've done a pretty good job with characters on both sides, establishing them and then setting them up for later episodes.
Yeah, man, I'm shocked at how much I how much I like Arrow now. I watched in the first season. Every Wednesday night with my ex-boyfriend, and we would watch it just because
you made fun of it.
Yeah, we hate watched it. We hate watched it because we watched Teen Wolf, and Colton Haynes left for Arrow, and I was really bitter about it, and which I think maybe fuels a little bit of it. But there was so much junk in the first season I really didn't like. I didn't like Oliver's body count, and. Well,
so I was okay with that. I was like, he's massacring people. He's just learning the trade.
Okay, it drove me nuts though, because he came on, and Stephen Amell's line readings, to be perfectly honest, in season 1, they were a little flat, which could have been just bad acting, but it also kind of made Oliver sound like a sociopath.
He was.
And so he'd come back and he went on this rampage, and then there was that episode where Lance showed what's his face, Roy, all the bodies. He was like, this guy has 26 kills, and I'm like, 26 kills.
Well, you gotta remember, he's a vigilante.
26
He's a
kills.
vigilante.
This guy
going after criminals.
Everyone kept calling, and Lance, he was supposedly the bad guy, the jerk we didn't like, and he was always calling the Hood a serial killer, and then after that it was like, oh my gosh, Lance was right, this guy's a serial killer.
Only a serial killer.
He's a sociopathic serial killer, and they're making how are they making a superhero show out of a serial killer? But
he's only a serial killer to the criminals and the people who are supposed to be doing their jobs. He's a vigilante getting rid of criminals on every dark alley.
There's no way that some those bodyguards who were just hired to protect a rich person, there's no way he didn't take out people who were just bodyguards doing their job.
If you're a vigilante, you take out everybody who gets in your way.
Ugh. And
even if you're not paid.
Yeah. And
the rule of fighting.
Yeah, and there were also in season 1 some really bad writing. Well, that episode where the guy, do you guys remember that episode where they were doing where that guy was getting people with bomb collars?
Oh,
and he forced them to do their bidding.
I didn't like that.
Okay, yeah, no, well there was a scene where like Felicity, she she dresses up, goes to this event to like catch the guy, and he like has a bomb collar in his pocket, and like she forces him, and they're in this like really like crowded room full of rich people, and they're probably like security everywhere, and he like pulls the bomb collar, and like she looks really nervous, and then you go to commercial, and then you come back, and Felicity comes on with a bomb collar. How did he get the bomb collar on her in a room full of people? Why didn't she just like scream and be like, "Oh my gosh, she's got a bomb"? Why didn't she do anything?
That's why they switched commercials.
There was no reason, so they had to switch had to have an off screen and her come back, and I'm like, that's terrible
the missing
writing.
link is gone. You can't do it.
It was just such bad writing, and I was
I'll
like,
give you that much.
What are you?
It was bad writing in some.
What are you doing? And then like I didn't like Oliver, and I really didn't like that like Detective Lance was like treated Laurel like way younger than he should have.
Yeah.
Like in the first season, really, he was treating her like she was still like
a teenager.
And she was pushing 30. Like that's the thing that drove me nuts too. All these characters are pushing 30, and none of them they're still like being played like they were younger. Like Tommy, when he was cut off, he had no money, nowhere to go. He didn't have a car, didn't have an apartment.
But the thing
is,
30.
Yeah. So like
what's he doing?
He had a trust fund. That should have been in his name by that point.
Yeah,
those
by
things,
18.
His father, by the time he was like, pushing 30, his father, like, shouldn't have been able to get a hold of all of his assets the way he was. And then like, and just all those little things
that really were annoyances that we almost couldn't pass up.
Like in the Smallville,
in the first season.
in the Smallville episode, like the Smallville character, rather, of Green Arrow, he was like, young college kid. He was on the island for only 2 years, and then he went back to civilization, and then he, ran around, did all this stuff, and learned, and so, it was a bit more believable, the way it was, and I kept thinking, like, it's been 5 years, and, all these characters, like, they still had all these issues that were going on for, like, 5 years, and, like, the way that Oliver and, everyone just, like, the way Lance and Laurel and Detective Lance, the way they hated Oliver, and, like, the way they were still just, frozen in their grief, like, it's been, like, 5 years.
Nothing had changed.
Yeah, and it was like, in 5 years, like, you should have, dealt with some of this.
At least gotten past a little bit and been a bit softer.
But, yeah, it was like the way everything was frozen for 5 years, and it just drove me nuts.
And now we find out he was in Hong Kong. Now he was on the island.
Yeah. Then, like, so I just, ended it, and then I was really annoyed at the way the first season ended. Like, you killed off Tommy, who turned out to be, like, the most well-rounded character, and, me and my ex-boyfriend, we'd had this idea that like, the season was going to end with them stopping the undertaking, and with Merlin dying, and Tommy taking his place and being the bad guy. And that didn't happen, and they killed Tommy, and they failed the undertaking, and I was like, this is a terrible way to end the season. Like, in the middle of, like, a catastrophe with people dead, that's a terrible way.
Yep.
But then, so I didn't really watch the second season when it started, but then, like, I read this TV recap, this recap of the premiere of the second season on the AV Club, which gave me a bit of a new perspective on it, and they said, like, pointed out that Oliver had not seen himself as a hero. He saw himself as a soldier in a war.
Yeah, as I
said.
And
a soldier in a war, you were killing people, you're killing people because you're trying to take out the enemy. Like, it's a bit of a different
that's why it made sense to me when I watched it.
And I hadn't seen it because the way I saw it, it's like they're trying to make a superhero show about a serial killer. And so that gave me a bit of a new perspective on it. And I read another article that pointed out something I had not given the show credit for, was that talked about how they made a lot of great, strong female characters.
Which is something that's lacking some of the other comic world.
Yeah, and just like really on TV show in general, like all the characters are like independent, well-educated women who can take care of themselves. And which is something I hadn't really given the show credit for, which is true.
Something you missed with all the other miscellaneous stuff you got mad about.
Yeah, and then in the second season, so I watched around Christmas, I like marathon like the first half of the season, and the way they took care of Oliver's like killing problems, how they changed that really was a lot better, and so I really enjoyed it. And so I really enjoyed the second season.
Yeah, second season was much better in that sense.
Yeah. And it helped, I think, too, that the show has gotten its bearings and figured out
things are set in foundation now.
Where it's going to go and what they want with the characters. So, it was really fun watching the second season.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen it at all, suffer through the first season, watch the second season as quick as possible, and then continue to watch.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
Yeah. But back to the premiere, I was really surprised that Felicity and Oliver, they went on their date.
Very quick.
I knew that this was probably the season that they get together, but I was not expecting it to be at a point where, like, people are, Oliver and whoever else are admitting out loud that Oliver has feelings for Felicity. I thought it would be more like bouncing back and forth, like he would never like say it out loud.
And it started quickly, right in the beginning of the episode almost, and then it ended.
First date, first kiss.
And then everything went from yes to no.
Yeah.
Everything ended, and you're like, okay then. Are they just going to be awkward the rest of the season? Or are they just going to get past this road bump?
I don't know, but I hope that, like, this Ray Palmer guy and Felicity get together, at least for a while.
That might be it.
Or something, because, there was her little flirtation with, what's-his-face, with, Barry.
Yeah. And we thought something was going to happen there, and that dropped off.
And because, the pilot picked up.
But I think that'll happen. I'm thinking that's what they're going to have to do, so Oliver stays on his own and finds himself, and he stays the Arrow and no longer... primary things become Zero and not Oliver himself, because he's probably going to give the company over.
Yeah.
That's what it seems like.
Another fire alarm went off at the dorms again.
We don't have, somebody to turn those off for us. We don't have our own superhero.
But Oliver has had his turn to go around, and he has had like 4 girlfriends within the first 2 seasons of the show.
Or did they die and get injured?
Yeah, or got arrested.
Get arrested. He's had bad track record.
Poor decision making. But
on his part of the girls.
Yeah. But I think I'd like to kind of see Felicity, because she's kind of always been waiting around, just hopelessly pining for him. So I'm kind of hoping that, she gets a chance to date around a little bit and have a nice relationship. So I do want a Felicity and Oliver, Olicity shipper. I would like to see those two get together in the end, but I would kind of like to see Felicity,
She might bounce out and then come back in.
Yeah, I would like to see her get a little, dating action of her own.
Yeah. Give her another side of the world, because she's just doing tech work for Oliver.
Yeah.
What an existence.
Yeah. How does a girl, she went to MIT, she was like top of her class, and she has this nice tech company. She lives in a city. So I don't understand how a girl who is like head of like the IT section and at a like Queen Consolidated wound up like having to work at like what looked like a Best Buy kind of place. Like, how could she not get a better job like at a different company working in IT?
We don't know what other companies are in the town.
But there has to be like, if it was like.
Maybe she uses Best Buy as the low-key cover-up.
Maybe.
Because there, nobody suspects her as being, the high-tech guy who does the communications and the hacking for the Arrow.
I wonder what happened.
Oh,
It's like the 3rd fire truck.
Oh, well, we can't worry about that.
Yeah.
We got this.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe. She seemed to really hate her job, though.
Yeah, she didn't like it.
Maybe she was expecting that Oliver would get the company back and rehire her.
Yeah, but no, that didn't seem the... I mean, she might get rehired if, what's his name? Is it
Ray
Palmer?
Palmer.
Starts with the company. He takes with the company.
Okay, yeah.
He may get the job.
I think he's a villain. Like...
He's leaning that.
Okay, the thing is, like, a bunch of, like, high-tech, high-powered companies got together, built an earthquake machine, and, like, destroyed the Glades and killed 500 people. So why does everyone think that like the idea of a company like taking over and remaking a city is a good idea, especially the same company responsible for the earthquake.
Because all the other cities have done it.
I don't know.
I mean, all the evil. I mean, not to be bad about corporations, but in the Spider-Man series, an evil Oscorp takes over, and that's where all the villains come from. One main area. So it probably he'll become some villain. We don't know what. I mean, there's quite a possibility he's being the tech guy that he is.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Oh, and side note, like as good as the second season one, that whole plot line about Moira becoming the mayor like was completely ridiculous. There's no way anyone would realistically like be okay, like support the idea of her becoming mayor. There's no real way that wouldn't cause like huge rioting and protests in the city after her trying to do something.
Or
like
just
that.
One of those things they tried to see where it would go, and it just kind of fizzled out.
Yeah. So that was quite a premiere.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
I enjoyed it. That's pretty much everything.
Yep, I think that's everything. Yeah. So
yeah. So
if you haven't seen it, go watch it.
Yeah, go watch the premieres of the Arrow and the Flash.
As soon
go
as
back
possible.
and watch the old episodes of Arrow.
If you haven't seen them.
Yeah. Yeah, and watch all of our videos on like.
Yep, we'll hopefully have more as time goes on.
Yeah.
So, if you like our videos, share them, please.
Yeah.
We're looking for views.
Yeah. So we know we haven't wasted our time here. All right. Well, have a good night, everyone.
Yeah, we'll see you later. Next video.
Yep, enjoy all the premieres going on right now. Yeah. Good night.